it comes a point in your life where, well, in my life anyways, where I had to ask myself if I saw myself doing the same thing for however many years. And the truth is that the answer was uncomfortable because I was like, no, I want to do so many things. And if I keep doing a 9 to 5, or in this case, an 8 to 7 or something like that, I was never going to be able to do all of the things I wanted to do. So I needed the freedom to pursue whatever else I have to get done for my own satisfaction. So that was the first driver, the need of having more freedom.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Start to Scale podcast by Gilder. I'm your host, Tyga. We have a very fun guest today. Her name is Iliana Alvarado, calling out of CDMX. She is one of our newest Gilder members. She's been fantastic, very active. But Iliana, if you can give our listeners a quick introduction overview of who you are and what you do, that'd be fantastic.
So yeah, I'm Eliana. Like he said, I am based in Mexico right now. I was born here and I went to law school here. And then I decided that I wanted to do a master's that I ended up doing in half in Chile, half in Germany through Heidelberg University. And after that, I sort of decided to have a lot of experience abroad. I ended up working for a law firm in Chile. And after a lot of years, I came back to Mexico and started working in one of the most important banks in Mexico. And in 2023, I decided to not do that anymore and start working for myself. And what started as an idea of just, um, working independently became into something else. And now I have a company, soon to be, hopefully, two. And I don't know, very exciting to be here.
Really appreciate you for coming on, Eliana. And there's actually a lot I want to unpack from your opener. The first thing is, how was what was the connection to Chile and Germany? How did you end up there?
Well, there's a program that is given by Heidelberg University. It's an LLM. It's what masters in law are named usually. And this one was particularly appealing to me because, like, one of the points they were trying to sell us on was you can have Germany education in Chile. So they have a center in Santiago, and you end up spending time in both cities. And that is what sold me, actually, because I've always, I was always interested in learning German, which I did. I'm not proficient at it. I am adequate, I would say. But that was for me like the biggest selling point, to be able to travel to South America and then to Europe. And because I had already lived there a little bit when I was younger. So I was looking for something like that, and unfortunately I found it.
So you had experience when you were younger living in Germany, or was that Chile?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I left home when I was 18 or 19, I don't remember. And I came back to Mexico when I was like 33. So yesterday. Uh and it was an amazing couple of years for me because I was able to be a little bit in, where was I? New York, Boston, Rhode Island, and then Europe a little bit. And then I came back, and I think that experience was invaluable to me because it gave me a new perspective on what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it, to be honest.
Is that common for folks in LATAM in general to be able to have those experiences where from the time you're 19 or 18 to 19 to 30, that decade long in your 20s to go to Boston, New York, um, all different parts of the States and Europe. Is that a common experience, or how were you able to cultivate that and make it a vision and actually turn it into reality?
Think so. Of course, it comes from a place of privilege, and I understand that. And even though my family wasn't rich or anything like that, we were in a position that could allow me to do that. I don't think it's usual. Yes, because of the money issues, but also because I don't think people in that decade of their life in Mexico are extremely adventurous. And I didn't really have a plan to begin with, if I'm being honest with you, but I made one on the go. And I think that proved to be the best decision ever because it taught me how to be in business by myself.
Mm.
I know it sounds a little bit of a cliche, but it's true. Like, because you're flying and you're building the plane while you're flying. And so I didn't really have a plan. I was just like, I just know that I want this and I know that I need a plan. So what ended up happening is that I became more open to things that I wanted to do and not do. And, or rather, I gained a better understanding of those things. And I knew in my heart that I did not want to come back. And I only came back when it became clear to me that I could do the things that I wanted to do here. And I ended up spending 9 years, I think, in Banamex, which is the bank I was working uh, for here. I think it was 9 years, 8, 9 years. I don't remember. And it allowed me to learn from within how a good company works. But to circle back to what we were talking about, it's not usual. I didn't have a plan, but I made one and it worked out.
And what was, sometimes the most serendipitous things happen without a plan, because when you have a plan, you really go for that plan. And if it doesn't work out, typically people, might get flustered or frustrated that the plan doesn't work out. So that's kudos to you for going and making something work. What what did you make work while you were, in those 10 years of traveling? What did you accomplish? What were kind of your goals? I know that you didn't have
I
a what did
Yeah.
what did you accomplish, I should say?
I've done a lot. Like a lot of people would be very surprised over the things that I've done. Uh, I would think having odd jobs was the first thing that I didn't know I wanted to do. And then when I did it, it was like, wow, this actually really helps to make you grow as a person. I've been an ice cream service person. I've been a chef. Well, I've been a waitress. I've been chocolatier. Uh, things that you would be like, what? But I did them. And it was awesome. And while doing that, I realized that the service part was the most important part. So it helped me sort of connect with people. And it gave me, you get to know a lot of very interesting people. And when I was in Boston, I think, I realized that I did not want to do a master's in America. So that's when I started looking for alternatives. And one of my biggest accomplishments in that time was finishing my master's. Um, and then I actually did another master's that I didn't finish. I'm trying to finish. I didn't finish for many, many personal reasons. But I think those two things were the most important ones to begin with. And after that, uh, being able to work in Santiago in one of the most prestigious law firms. It's another one that I actually liked a lot. The experience of it was really, really amazing. Because it's one thing when people tell you, like, oh, yeah, I'm multicultural, or I am bilingual, or I speak many languages and I understand many cultures, when they are only talking about it from sort of an academic standpoint. It's very different when you're actually there and you actually have to face different traditions, different practices, different ways of engaging with life itself. And that opened up the world to me, to be honest with you, to be able to engage with people uh, from different backgrounds, different languages, and different customs. That was amazing. And yeah, I think those three things.
Very cool. Yeah. So it sounds like you're doing a bunch of odd jobs, balancing out with getting your master's. It sounds like ultimately the biggest thing that you learn from those odd jobs is that you can relate and connect to anybody as you're doing these odd jobs, doing these service
Yeah,
jobs.
yeah. And
How did,
then having a really, really big girl job as an attorney was also,
all right.
it put me in another position. But similarly, I had to relate to people that weren't from my culture or anything like that.
Actually, I want to take a step back. Why did you end up studying law?
Oof, this is going to be controversial. Well, I don't know if it is. Since I was a little girl, I was very much inclined for academic pursuits. Even though I wasn't the best student, because I wasn't, I was always very, very inquisitive. I was always wondering why anything. And it's very funny because they make you choose when you're 18, and it's just like. So when I was young, I was like, I think I want to be or study philosophy because that's what I want to do. And then I thought to myself, yeah, but you also like money. So what could you do? And then I fell in love with law. And that's why I decided to pursue a law degree because it allowed me to keep me entertained, keep my mind curious and looking for the whys while actually um, allowing me to have the kind of lifestyle that I want.
Why did you decide to work in Santiago over maybe a law firm when you were over in the States, like in Boston or in New York or someplace like that? Why pick Santiago, Chile?
Well, because it's easier. You cannot do that in America, plain and simple. You have to be an attorney there, which I may become. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's one of my many pursuits that I am trying to figure out in the medium term. But just because it's easier, and even though that is the reason, to be honest with you, I've worked with American attorneys for all of my career, so it's something in my mind that maybe I'll do someday.
Did you study English growing up, or was it when you went to the States for those 10 years? That's
No,
where
I
you
never
kind
studied English in my
wow,
life.
wow.
Uh, I was just born with it. Like, my mom endeavored herself to just talk to me in English, even though she doesn't really speak English, which is whatever, but it worked. And then she always sent me to bilingual schools. So I never really learned English. My experience growing up was always having both languages in my head. It was never different for me. And as I grow older, it's very funny because um, since I use English every day, most of the time, I would say like 95% of the time, 95% of the time, Spanish becomes a little bit of a hurdle for me because I forget how to say words. It's really funny. But yeah, I never learned. It just happened. Yeah, and
And
kudos to my mom because she
yeah,
came up with that. And actually, linguistic, like one of the most recent linguistic discoveries, let's call them. I also did an undergrad in linguistics, by the way, was that doing that, it's much more valuable and important than having your kids learn, like even though they are very, very like little, when they are like 3, 5, it's very good that they have a second language. But what my mom did was actually sort of like pre-install the software in my brain. And linguistically, that is a better way to make the person better at the language. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. I wish my mom did that with Japanese. Um, but yeah, going back to your career, how did, doing all these odd jobs, working corporate, why did you make the switch to become your own boss and to become an entrepreneur, going from that stable income of being a lawyer or, doing law in Santiago, working for a company, probably having a pretty good salary, to being your own boss?
It comes a point in your life where, well, in my life anyways, where I had to ask myself if I saw myself doing the same thing for however many years. And the truth is that the answer was uncomfortable because I was like, no, I want to do so many things. And if I keep doing a 9 to 5, or in this case, an 8 to 7 or something like that, uh, I was never going to be able to do all of the things I wanted to do. So I needed the freedom to pursue whatever else I have to get done for my own satisfaction. So that was the first driver, the need of having more freedom. The second driver was the realization that even though I loved the corporate structure and I loved the security it provided, I also love not. I also love not doing that. So I realized that there are two kinds of people: people that are after security and people that aren't. And in financial terms, I think that is known as people that are risk averse or people that are not. And I realized that I wasn't risk averse, like I was risk seeking. So for me, it would pay, in my head, it would pay more to look for opportunities elsewhere than staying in the security that I had there. So those two drivers were the reason why I decided to start doing business on my own.
Very cool. I love that. I think too many people are in a comfort zone. They don't venture out of their comfort zone. Then they look in their 60s and they look back on their career and they're like, oh, wow, I literally didn't do anything. Uh, and I think a lot of people that take risks are entrepreneurs because ultimately we all want to make some type of change, either locally or globally or however we want. We're impacting, and we're not a cog in the machine, so to speak. We're actually decision makers and, planning out our days, planning out our schedules, and actually producing and getting stuff done for a business. So there's a lot of merit and there's a lot of nobility going that route. Yeah, I wanted to go back to Chile because I think that was a big part of your life. And I think ultimately I've done a lot of research in LATAM, and I know Chile has a lot of structure as far as their work structure. They have a lot of publicly traded companies. I think they have 18 or 20 publicly traded companies, which is almost the same as Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
Like Brazil has, you know,
20
I don't know,
something,
maybe 20 something, but Brazil
Yeah.
also has 10x or 20x the population of Chile. So, how did Chile kind of shape your professional career? Just because I think out of all countries that have been in LATAM, they kind of compare it as like the Scandinavia of LATAM. How did that shape your career and how did that shape your work ethic?
It's very funny because you're absolutely right. I wouldn't describe it like that. It's more like Chile, because of its own geography, it's like set aside, It's like not even like Argentina. Like I've been there a couple of times and I love it. But you can see the like same things you see elsewhere. In Chile is a little bit different than that. Um, Even though people are very much from LATAM, you know what I mean? Like Chile and Mexico have a long history of friendship and brotherhood, and Chilean people are very much aware of what happens here, more so than what Mexicans are aware of what happens there. That saying all that, that being said, it's Chile is a little bit close. Um, they still have a lot of structures that I haven't seen in any other country that I've been in, for better or for worse. I love it. I love the country. We're actually trying to expand there right now. Um, because they have two pieces of legislation coming up that impact what they need to do in regards to IT. And I think we can help them with that. So we're expanding there as we speak, which is very funny. But again, circling back to your question, they have structures that I don't see anywhere else. And that means a little bit of rigidity in the way they do things because of their past. I don't want to, it's controversial, but because of their past, they have a little bit of rigidity still. And that helped me sort of shape how I do things now. Because even though you need to have some leeway and have some space to do the things you want to do, you also need structure. And my experiences there provided me with an awareness of that structure.
Do you think that, just doing business in the States and in LATAM, do you think that every country in LATAM you have to kind of adapt to their work culture? Or is there kind of a similar work culture throughout specific countries? Like maybe Argentina and Colombia are similar cultures, or every country kind of has their own work culture as far as being adaptable?
It
Uh,
depends. As an individual, yes, you have to adapt 100%. And even though every country has their own culture, they have like an underlying baseline of sorts. They are really, they don't look at life the way Americans do or the ways Europeans do. It's completely different. And well, we as Latin American people have that baseline. But you absolutely have to adapt to each country if you're an individual provider. If you have a company, you don't have to adapt to their work culture, but you have to adapt to the way they close deals. That is one of the biggest lessons I've learned. Like, um, for instance, in Chile, it's a lot of trust-based relationships. Uh, if they don't know you, they won't talk to you, which is similar to Mexico, but they at least have like other ways to do business. In Mexico, it's, for instance, completely closed. It's about who do you know and what they provide to you and what you can provide to them. It's a different culture. And in Chile, is like, oh, I don't know you, but if you get introduced or if you have a base there, or it's a little bit different. So as a company, you have to adapt to how every country closes businesses. That has been the hardest learning curve I think we've had.
how do you think, you mentioned earlier that, folks in LATAM think differently and view life differently than folks in the States. What are kind of those differentiators between LATAM and how people think in the States?
I have a theory. This is a theory. Please don't come at me. I have a theory. I think it's because of how they were founded. Um, I mean, it is a fact that, for instance, America was founded by Christians, and those Christians were not Catholics, they were just Christians. And my very limited understanding of that situation is that those kinds of Christians believe that um, you have to keep busy, for instance. And even though now it has nothing to do with religion, I think we need to be aware of our history because now we understand that because of who they were when they were founded, now in my opinion, of course, now America is very much efficacy first, efficiency, and work, 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 work because of that. And I think Latin America is not like that. Latin America is a little bit more like, well, yes, but you also have to rest. You also have to have fun. You also have to spend time with your family. And I think it has to do with who founded what country. Let's use founded to not be controversial.
I would say that I don't want to argue that point. I actually agree with that point, but I would also look. I'm half Japanese, and I think that Japan has an even worse work culture than the States, where you have to work all the time. You have to stay longer than your boss. Once your senpai leaves, then you have the ability to leave. So a lot of people in Japan are literally just sitting at their computers, just idling and not doing anything, waiting for their boss to leave. It's not a sign of productivity. It's just a sign of respecting your senpai or respecting your boss, showing them that you're working and you're staying, those extra hours. I'd say the US is similar where I mean, the standard is 2 weeks off a year, 2 weeks paid time off a year, which when you look at Europe, which I know that you have experience in Germany, and I mean, when you look at Scandinavia, they typically get 6 weeks to 2 months off of paid time off every single year. And on top of that, when you're having, parental leave, they get a year or two of parental leave. I think in the
Yeah, I think
States,
so. I'm not
months.
sure.
So it's interesting that, you know, different cultures have, different levels of work. But what was your experience with Europe as well? I know you had some time in Germany. What do you think about kind of European work culture and kind of adapting to those, how they
I think it has to do a lot with who you are as a person. Because I know a lot of people from Mexico that have immigrated to Germany in particular, and they had not a fun time. They weren't miserable, but they didn't have a fun time. It's not an easy language to learn. And for them, the culture was just not something they could cope with because I wanted to comment something that has to do with this. I don't know if you knew this, but Mexicans work the most hours. I think in all of Latin America, if not
I saw
the
some.
Americas. Yeah.
I think I saw a data point about
Yeah. Yeah. But that it's very funny because even though Mexico does that, we still have a lot of fun. We still make time for family and friends and fun things. And when people go to Germany, what I experienced was that people were very detached there. And most Mexicans really couldn't cope with that. And I would say I'm only speaking about Mexicans because those are the people I met. I didn't meet any other Latin American people there. They were like almost cliquey because since they didn't really speak the language well, they couldn't really communicate. So they were friends with other Mexicans, and that was very isolating. And that was what I experienced there through very vicariously through their experiences. For me, it was a little bit different. Even though I'm adequate at best in German, I could communicate with Germans. But even if I couldn't, for me, it was amazing because they were actually very respectful in my view. And what would translate as attachment for someone else, for me, was respect, and for me was organization and structure, and I loved all that. So I had a lot of fun there, to be honest with you. Like so much that if I could, I would move to Germany now.
I hear there's a lot of similarities between German culture and Japanese culture as far as work structure, very pragmatic. Um, yeah, I definitely want to visit Germany at some point, and
You should.
I do agree that there is just as far. I mean, being an American and half Japanese and being down in Latam, I mean, I think in LATAM, just seeing my friends that are from Argentina, I've been to Chile, seeing my friends in Chile. It seems like family is kind of the center of their life. And in the US and in Japan, it's like your career is the center of your life. Like the dad focuses on work, the mom finds a way to take care of the children, maybe focus on work. And in the States, it's all about your career, it seems like, and family's secondary. The US, it ultimately seems like people just want to make as much money as possible and that's it. So how was it like structuring your days, your work-life balance, when you became an entrepreneur yourself rather than, working for someone else when you became an entrepreneur? How was that like?
Oof. Okay. So when I became an entrepreneur and I actually started working in my own company, in my experience, again, I don't want to say that this is a norm, but in my experience, I understood that work-life balance doesn't really exist. It's a myth. If you want to be good at something, you don't budget the hours you spend doing that. You just do it because you want to be good at it, because it's your passion, because there's something at the end of that process that you want. And how many hours that is, well, that depends on you, you know. For me, it's a matter of understanding that what I do because I want to. And I put all of my energy and passion into it. Sometimes that means sleeping less hours, but because I want to. And that is the difference. Nobody's telling me, oh, you should finish this and then tomorrow go to work at 7 a.m. Like, no, it's like I'm building something I want to, and I structure my days accordingly. And again, for me, it has to do with how much you want something. If you want it really, really badly, I don't think you're going to think like, oh, well, I'm going to spend 50% of my time not doing it.
Because I think in Silicon Valley and just, the rise of Elon Musk the past 20 years, it seems like he always talked about how he would have 70 to 120-hour work weeks and just be always working and all
No,
that stuff.
that's also untenable and not healthy.
Right.
Like, as long as you have the drive, the will, the passion, by all means, if you want to spend 24/7 working, do it. But if it's out of obligation, then no. I mean, one of the biggest things that I learned working at the bank was my most productive self was when I slept well, when I was healthy, not stressed. And I know it sounds like obvious, but it's not, because you're when you're in it, when you're in that process, you're like, oh, well, I'm eating well, I'm healthy. Are you actually? Like, I realized that I needed to take care of myself in a very specific way, which is sleep more than 7 hours, eat at the same time every day. And that made me much more productive than just working like a dog. And that doesn't really amount to anything because, like you said, that only tells you, you know, how unproductive you are by doing something for so long. Like that's not healthy, and that doesn't really get you anywhere, I think.
Right. I think good sleep is just a hidden superpower that a lot of people don't really think about. I want to dive into N6 systems, Eliana. Could you tell me why you started N6 systems, what it is, and what your goals are with it?
Sure. So N6 systems started as an idea to provide services, but differently. So in the very beginning, N6 partnered up with a company called Expertech IT based in Dallas because we identified a very important gap in the service provision of IT. We saw that a lot of very smart people are providing IT services left and right in America in particular. The market is a little bit actually saturated with MSPs of varying maturity and of varying degrees of uh, professionalism and whatever they can do, but it's a little bit saturated. And the gap I identified was they were doing a very good job at the IT itself, but detached from context. So, for instance, if I tell you, hey, I'm going to manage your network, you can say, like, oh, okay, good to know. But it lacks context, and context is important. And being an attorney and having worked in, I've been an attorney. I did the math. I think it's been like more than 20 years. It's insane. And being an attorney and having worked in governance and risk, I realized that context in the IT service provision was very important. Context gets you to better systems within a company. And I realized that that gap was pretty much IT governance. And more specifically, not only IT governance, but AI governance. So N6 Systems partnered up with Expertech to provide more well-rounded services to our clients. And since 2023. So right now we have the capabilities of providing IT. We do pretty much everything from um, help with your endpoints to digital transformation to fractional chief technological officer, or there are many names for that position. But we can also do like strategy, all of those things. But now we can also do the other part, which is governance. What that means is, for instance, and I always say this, it sounds like a little bit cliche, but it's true. Like, okay, you have technology in your company. Your company is probably going to become a technology company because that's just the way things are going. But who's taking care of that? And then when the answer is like, oh, well, I have an internal group that does IT. And the context is important because, like, for instance, are they proficient in AI? Are they proficient in segregation of access? And that is where we come in. We believe wholeheartedly that in the medium term, every company, or almost every company, is going to be a tech company. Why? Because you need you need tech to run your company. So you need to think about who is going to take care of your IT, and not only your IT isolated, but also your IT within the context of your company and how you want to grow and where you want to go. And you need someone that understands that and that prioritizes that in order to provide them a service. For instance, AI. Right now, AI is all the rage and everybody likes it or hates it or whatever. But do you actually know what it is? Do you actually know what access are you giving it? Do you actually know if your data is secure or not? Are you paying for it? If you're not, are you okay with the risk that implies? And I always say to my clients, like, it really doesn't matter. We can help you either way, but you have to be aware of what you're doing. Like, if you are pro risk, then you have no issue. But you need to have it somewhere documented that you have no issue, that you took that decision. Because even though, for instance, medium or small companies don't have a board of directors or whatever, they are still liable. They are still liable and need to respond to their client. So as long as they are aware, there's no problem. And that's where we come in. We help them be aware of what they're actually doing.
Very
And
cool.
now, like I said, I'm sorry. Now, like I said, we're trying to expand to Chile.
That's amazing. I know expanding to Chile is one of your goals. What are your other goals with N6 systems?
I truly believe we are like one of those companies that are like the best kept secret ever. And I truly believe, and I see every day the quality of services we provide. So I want to actually help people grow their businesses by growing mine. I believe a lot in growing together. I believe a lot in partnership, and I believe a lot in enabling people to achieve their goals through what I provide. And more than I believe in it, I've seen it, and that is what I actually want to do. Um, if a company, for instance, has the mission to grow X amount of times in X amount of time, um, I make it my own goal to help them achieve that goal. Why me? Why am I so sure that I can help? Like I said, every company is going to be an IT company, and IT has to be in the front and center of your corporate decisions. It doesn't matter the size of your company, actually. Because, for instance, just an example, right now, um, we are seeing an increase in the price of hardware because of the requirements of AI, because everything is going, all the hardware is going to AI instead of, computers. And nobody planned for that. Nobody saw that coming. And if you don't have someone that actually guides you through that process, what are you going to do? Like, how are you going to change your hardware? Something so simple as that. You actually need someone to sort of tell you how to grow. And before it was like, oh, well, yeah, I have my account under my attorney or whatever. Now it has to be like, no, I actually have to grow with my technology. And that is sort of where we come in.
Feel like it's the perfect timing because AI has been booming. Hardware is progressing and advancing really fast. People are adapting to different tools and methods on how they do business in general. So sounds like it's amazing timing for N6 systems to really expand. One more question, Eliana. If you can tell your 19-year-old self right before you're going to the States one piece of advice, what would that be?
Don't get married. A lot
Great
to
advice.
unpack there, but don't make hasty decisions.
That's great advice.
And yeah, don't make hasty decisions and find a balance between going with the flow and achieving your actual plan.
Love that. And if you could tell a first-time founder any words of wisdom, what would that be?
Everybody's human. Everybody is the same as you. Everybody has the same capabilities as you, generally speaking. Nobody's more or less than you. And you have to start from that understanding to then see where your value comes in and what you can provide that actually multiplies value for somebody else. Like, for instance, if you sell something devoid of any value, context, reason, it may not work. We're not the economy or the society were before. This is completely different. Now you have to actually look at who you are, but from the lens of what multiplier am I bringing to the table to actually help whomever I'm serving grow or achieve their goals.
Wow, I love it. Uh, Eliana, I really appreciate the time and thank you for being a fantastic guest on the Start to Scale podcast. Is there anything else you would like to share to our audience?
No, um, look for our social media and Six Systems. Sometimes it's just 10-6. We can help you with almost anything you require IT wise. And again, just to everyone, either in business, new to business, or new to being an entrepreneur, just remember that this is just like anything else. You just need to find what you're bringing to the table to help other people. And I think that is the fastest key to success.
Amazing. Eliana, I really appreciate it. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
Stop the record.